In the opening scene, we see a young woman named Akani in the school corridor. She's minding her own business when another student, Seiji, suddenly calls her name, claiming he has something really important to tell her. This makes her nervous because she thinks he's going to ask her out, but to her utmost shock, he says he hates her before abruptly walking away. In the next scene, Akani awakes in her bed thinking about the incident. She finds it odd that he hates her, considering it was their first meeting. She then gets ready for school, and we learn that she lives with her parents and a younger sister. Akani then bids goodbye to her family and departs. Later at school, we discover that she's the class president. There's an upcoming dance competition, so she asks for a volunteer to be the dance leader. However, none of the students seem to be interested, and they simply remain silent. At that moment, Seiji arrives at the class and Akane asks him to be the dance leader, but he directly refuses, claiming to be too busy with his painting. This makes her feel bad, and everyone tells her that she should be the leader since she's their class president. Having no other choice, she reluctantly agrees to take on the role. Later, during art class, students are asked to write about the good and bad traits of their classmates. Interestingly, Akane and Seiji are paired to write about each other. After completing the assignment, they receive their personality sheets and are asked to read them aloud. During Akane's turn, she discovers that Seiji has written that she always hides her true self behind a mask. This makes her uncomfortable, so she explains that wearing a mask is merely a habit and that she shows her true self to everyone. A little while later, as she's having lunch alone, Seiji suddenly throws his personality sheet at her. On it, she's written that he's good at painting and that everyone likes him. He claims that she hasn't even seen his paintings and accuses her of always saying what suits the situation. Seiji thinks that she always hides her true emotions and never says what's truly on her mind. Later, we learn that Akane is the type of girl that everyone relies on for help, and she can't refuse them. Even at home, she takes care of her younger sister and manages all the household chores. Akane feels that her mother doesn't care about her at all, and due to this, she suffers from anxiety. And whenever she gets upset, she begins hurting herself. One day, Akane's in a hurry and forgets to wear her mask. On the bus, she frantically looks for it and becomes anxious when she can't find it. She then covers her mouth with a handkerchief and exits the bus. However, she can't gather her courage and sits on the roadside while struggling to breathe. Moments later, Seiji notices her in a terrible state and rushes to comfort her. He then brings her a bottle of water along with a new mask. This finally makes her feel better, and Akane explains that she can't survive without her mask. He asks her why, but suddenly she receives a call from her mother, who scolds her for not going to school. When Akane proceeds to leave, he tells her to rest since she's not feeling well. However, she insists that she needs to go because she needs to prepare for the dancing contest. Later at school, Akane gathers everyone for dance practice, but nobody seems interested. They make up all kinds of excuses and leave. Due to this, she becomes very frustrated and begins to damage her nails. Fortunately, Seiji notices this and immediately stops her from hurting herself. He asks about the dance practice, and she responds that no one is interested. So, he goes to the announcement room and asks everyone to come to the auditorium right away. Hearing his voice, everyone shows up and he helps them in practice. Several days later during the final rehearsal, the students are having a fantastic time. However, Akane feels very out of place and walks out. Later, she walks into a room where she notices a beautiful painting. Just then, Seiji arrives and informs her that it's his work. She then bursts into tears and states that his painting is both melancholic and beautiful. Seeing her so emotional, he comforts her and asks her to follow him somewhere. Not long after, they reach the rooftop where Akane feels relaxed and happy. Seiji tries to remove her mask, but she gets nervous and stops him. This frustrates him, and he claims that she's always hiding behind a mask and will never show her true self. In response, Akane angrily says he has no right to judge her. She says she tries her best in every situation, and he doesn't understand her struggles. She then rips off her mask and begins raving about how everyone dumps their shit on her, including her teachers and family. But no one seems to care about her well-being. Akane says she's tired of being treated this way and wants to be free. Hearing all this, Seiji begins laughing and says he's pleased that she finally expressed something. He then comforts her and advises her to speak from the heart from now on. From that moment onwards, the two spend a lot of time together and grow really close. One day while Seiji is painting, Akane sits beside him and asks why he always paints the sky. He says that in his life, he has only seen two beautiful things, and the second one is the sky. Curious, she asks about the first one, but he claims it's a secret. He then comes closer to her and draws something on her mask. Later, when she looks in the mirror, she discovers he's drawn a sun, which makes her very happy. The next day at school, Akane exits the restroom and hears some girls gossiping about her and Seiji. They claim she's unworthy of him, and since she always wears a mask, she must be really ugly. Hearing this, Akane becomes anxious again and struggles to breathe. Later in class, her best friend Sayaka gives her some water and tries to remove her mask, but she gets mad and pushes her. Seeing this, everyone is shocked, so Seiji takes her hand and leads her away. Outside, he calms her down and makes her ride his bicycle. They eventually reach an abandoned amusement park and let off some steam. They then watch the sunset together, and he asks her if she knows its color. She names various colors, but he surprises her by saying that the color of the sunset is Akane. She didn't know her name was based on a color, and he explains it means deep red in Japanese. After some time, Seiji asks her why she always wears a mask to school. She shares that at her previous school she used to be very straightforward and would always speak her mind. However, one day, a new student stole a pen from another classmate, and this annoyed her so much that she shouted in front of everyone that the girl had stolen the pen. As a result, the girl started crying loudly, and the other students hated Akane for her actions. This caused her incredible anxiety, and she eventually resorted to wearing a mask. While wearing a mask, she felt a sense of relief, as if she could finally breathe again. Since then, wearing a mask has become a sense of security for her. Following this, Akane asks him why he told her he hated her during their first meeting. Seiji tries to explain, but she suddenly receives a call from her mother asking her to return home. He then accompanies her home and apologizes to her parents for keeping her out so late. Mom and Dad are surprised and ask if he's her boyfriend. Although Akane denies it, Seiji doesn't say anything and just smiles. The next day at school, Akane apologizes to Sayaka for her behavior the day before. She clarifies that she can't breathe without her mask, as it gives her a sense of security. Sayaka knows that her friend is struggling, so she promptly forgives her. Shortly after, Akane begins studying while listening to music. At that moment, Seiji sends a text to her bragging that his music is better, and he even shares his favorite song with her. Later, while walking through the hallway, Akane overhears a conversation between two teachers. One of them mentions that going to art school abroad is an excellent opportunity for Seiji, but he's refusing to apply. After school, as Akane is leaving, the art teacher approaches her and asks her if she's close to Seiji. He tells her to persuade him to go abroad, as it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for him. He then states that Seiji should not limit himself because of what happened in the past. When she tries to ask him about his past, the teacher realizes he said too much and hastily closes the door. Later, she approaches Seiji and questions why he claimed to love painting, but now is refusing to go abroad. She reminds him that he was the one who encouraged her to be true to herself, but now he seems to be being a little hypocritical. He then gets angry and declares that she doesn't know anything about him. This leads to a heated argument, and she eventually leaves in tears. Later at home, Akane is with her younger sister when her mom approaches her with an old photo. She reveals that Seiji used to study with her at her old school, and she didn't recognize him that evening because he's now changed his hair. Her mom states that as a child he was diagnosed with cancer and was very sick. Akane looks at the picture and realizes he is indeed her childhood friend. The next day, he doesn't come to school, and Akane becomes very worried about him. After class hours, Seiji meets with his art teacher and informs him that he went for a regular checkup and everything is normal. The teacher then advises him to apply abroad, stating that it's a privilege to be given such an opportunity and he shouldn't waste it. While heading home, Seiji runs into Akane in the hallway. The two then go into their classroom where he finally opens up about his childhood. He shares that he used to be very sick and weak and often got bullied by other kids. One day, while playing football, a mean kid deliberately pushed him hard and he began to cry. But moments later, a girl hit the bully and confronted him. Seiji reveals that her smile was the most beautiful thing in the world. Since then, whenever he's very sick, he would remember her words and find strength. He claims that her smile was his lucky charm, and he soon recovered from his illness. Hearing this, Akane admits that she's the same girl and apologizes for not recognizing him sooner. Seiji also gets emotional and shares that he was the kid whose pen was stolen. He admits that he recognized her on the first day of school, but was disappointed by her new demeanor. He claims that she was his childhood hero, but now she just wants to hide from everyone, which is why he hated her. At that moment, Akane finally expresses her feelings and admits she likes him. She thanks him for coming into her life and changing it. She says that she also wants him to be happy and encourages him to pursue his passion for painting. The two then head to the terrace, where Seiji admits that he's scared his illness might resurface, which is why he's hesitant to go abroad. However, she encourages him to paint over his fear and live the best life he deserves. They then begin painting the whole terrace and have a lot of fun together. Later, Seiji thanks her for everything and promises that he will go abroad to pursue his dream. The next morning, Akane returns home to find her parents worried about her. She apologizes to them, and they share a heartfelt hug. The scene then shifts to 5 years later, where we see Akane heading home after work. Suddenly, she hears Seiji's favorite song and follows the sound. She eventually arrives at a place where she sees a painting. It depicts the beautiful night they spent on the terrace. The movie ends when Seiji calls out her name from behind, and she looks at him with a smile.